So tonight's session is all about how can I invest in HMOs? So starting with you are the most important person tonight. Your situation, your reasons, your drive, why you're here. And already you've given me some great answers about your own situation. We've got a mixture of people watching. Some of you have already got some HMOs, some of you are complete newbies, and some of you, it feels to me, have had some education, you've maybe done a bit of reading, you might have read one of my books, but you want to know more. You want to understand, is this going to really work for you? So thank you very much for your comments, and thank you for helping me to understand your situation and perhaps some of the barriers in your own mind to making this work. Now, just to tell you a little bit about me, I work with investors who generally have got a little bit of experience. They're not absolutely brand new, and they've got some money to invest with, and they're looking to create another form of income, a residual form of income. And of course, what we do know about HMOs is how much more lucrative they can be than single buy-to-lets. So tonight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you my 5-step system. And I know you may have seen this before. Don't switch off, purely because there's a lot of value in having a system. For me, having the system has enabled me to rinse and repeat each and every time whenever I've bought and refurbished an HMO. And if you can have the mindset of somebody who has a systemized business, you can grow it faster, you can save money, and you can become much more profitable. You can also leverage it so that it becomes hands-free. I now spend about 2 or 3 hours a week on my property business, and I'll tell you more about the size of that in a moment. And that's because I have a team that runs it for me and systems that the team runs. So I want you to learn tonight the content about HMOs, how they work, some of the kind of trends coming through in HMOs as well, so that you can think about whether that's right for you, and to determine whether HMOs are the right strategy for you right now. They might be, but they might not be. It might be better for you to start with a couple of single buy-to-lets, or it might be that you just don't feel right now ready to start launching into HMOs, which is fine. So we've got a little self-assessment to do during the break, and it'll only take you about 2 minutes, and then you'll get a little report and it'll give you some tips and hints about what you can do next and whether you're ready to get going in HMOs. What do you do if you've got money to invest but you have no time, and also vice versa? I want to share with you some of the pitfalls that attract the unwary into HMOs and the skills that you'll need to invest, because it isn't just about money, it's also about having skills. We'll talk a little bit about some of the myths surrounding HMOs, and some of them are unfounded, but some of them are definitely founded. So what are they, and should we care? And the truth about investing in HMOs. I'm still investing in HMOs 8 years on since I started, and it has changed, the market has changed, but it's still possible to make good profits from each and every property you turn into an HMO. Now, of course, if you've done any training or research already about HMOs, you'll know that a simple property like this one on your screen, if it was a single buy-to-let, the rental income in our area would be about £590 a month as a 3-bed terrace, with the mortgage and the costs, which would be £240, let's say roughly. My profit would be about £350 a month. Stable, fairly easy, not much turnover, but not much money either. On the other hand, if I turn that into an HMO, which I did, and it became a 6-bed HMO, the rental income is £2,450. My mortgage and expenses are £1,270, so my profit is £1,130, 4 times as much, nearly 4 times as much as if it was a single buy-to-let. Fantastic, fantastic, I hear you say. And that's exactly how I felt. But I could also see that there would be more problems having 6 people living in a property than having 1 person or 1 family living in a property. I could also see that there would be higher management time. I could also see that there would probably be other problems. And indeed there are. And I'm happy to share what those problems are. But the benefit of having that kind of profit is that you don't have to run the property yourself. So even if I paid somebody £200 a month to manage that property, I would still be making £900 a month profit. And that is all hands-free. So tonight is about helping you to see the power of HMOs. But HMOs are not a beginner strategy. They're a bit more advanced. So having knowledge and education will really help you to build your confidence and know how to do this strategy. Now, this is one of our latest deals. I'm very excited about this one. It hasn't been revalued yet, so I haven't got the final figures on this particular deal. And this is a deal that was done with an investor. So we worked with an investor. It was all the investor's money that went into this project. And the rooms haven't all been rented out yet. I think we've rented 2 or 3 rooms so far, but we've got another 3 rooms to go. So it's literally hot off the press, this particular property. So this was a 3-bed terraced house. Now you can see why I might have been attracted to it. You remember that very famous question that Caroline Hurd once asked Debbie McGee: what was it that first attracted you to millionaire Paul Daniels? I always love that question. What was it that first attracted you to a big, large Victorian house with 2 bay windows for an HMO? It's kind of obvious, isn't it? High ceilings, large rooms, spacious. Terrace property. Doesn't look much on the outside, I'm sure you'd agree, but actually when you go in, these properties go back for a long way. So David, one of your questions was how to look for the right property. These terrace properties, we're going to look at floor layouts in a moment, can make brilliant HMOs. So purchase price, we sourced this for £102,000. The refurb was probably a lot more than we would have wanted it to be. And I think for different reasons during COVID, it went up higher than we all wanted, but it was £98,000. Total cost of about £200,000. It's a 6-bed HMO. So if you break that down, so if you divide the total cost of the project by each room costs about £33,000 to create. Now, I like doing that because it helps me to analyze the return on each individual room, as well as the return on the overall property. And for me, I only got B in my maths O level, so I have to have things made quite simple. And if you're not fantastic at numbers and maths, then I'm going to try and give you a few easy ways to add up tonight, so you know whether it's a good deal or it isn't. So these are some before and after pictures. This was the front room downstairs. Obviously, it had been a lounge beforehand. And then you can see the after photo. The chimney breast was taken out. And what you see on the right-hand side on the lower picture is the bay window, which obviously has shutters now, which are beautiful. And we have an ensuite as well. And there are fitted wardrobes at the base of the bed, which you can't quite see here. This was the kitchen. So not a bad kitchen, quite a good sized kitchen. But what do you notice that is, apart from the fittings and apart from the layout of the kitchen and the lighting, is there something in that photo that you notice that isn't in the first kitchen photo? Who can spot what's there now that wasn't there before? Yes, a door. And I'm going to come to that door in a moment. That door heralds another £500 a month income, very cleverly. But this was something that nobody else had spotted. And that door leads to this room, a large ensuite study room. As you can see, it's huge. A large ensuite at the back with fitted wardrobes, windows and a door. If I flick back, you can see that is an outside door, and that door in the middle goes to the kitchen. Now, when we first saw this property, the floor plan looked like this. So this is one of the things that I have seen time and time again with estate agents and with floor plans, is that the estate agent will show you the floor plan of the house, which isn't always accurate, by the way, so don't take it as being 100% accurate. But what they fail to do is to show you some of the extras that might come with that property. And unless you read the details and you understand it, you might miss it. So this was the layout of the property that we were shown. And to all intents and purposes, I thought that's a great layout. We've got a good lounge at the front. That could be 1 bedroom. The dining room, we just need to put in a partition wall to lead to the kitchen. Upstairs, we've got a large master bedroom and a second bedroom, and both of those could have a back-to-back ensuite. And then in the third bedroom, we could integrate the family bathroom into that bedroom. So we make it into a large bedroom. And that way it actually meets minimum room sizes, because without it, it was a little bit on the small side. But what the estate agent failed to do was to show us this. And this, which was the attached shed garage outbuilding, is what I call the jewel in the crown. Now, this, unfortunately, is where a lot of uneducated HMO investors fail. They miss out because they don't see the jewel in the crown. They don't understand that once you've bought the freehold of the property, in this case, that whole stretch of land is the freehold, you can more or less develop it under certain restrictions, depending on planning permission, but assuming that there is already the framework there, so a loft is already there, you can build into the loft, assuming you don't need a dormer. If you have a garage or a shed that's attached, you can build into that and it can be connected to the house. In fact, in this case, it was connected to the house. We knocked it through, we got building regs, and it has become the 6th bedroom. So what was going to be a 5-bed HMO has turned into a 6-bed HMO. It still needs a license because it's over 5 bedrooms, 5 people, but it doesn't need planning permission because it's not 7. But what's happened is the investor has almost got a room for free. Yes, we've had to do the internals, we've had to do the decor and so on, but you've got another £500 a month income just from that one extra space at the back of the house. So jewels in the crown is something that I specialize in. I love to find properties where there's something extra, something different about it. And one of the things that I share on my 3-day course is 7 ways to add value to a property. So this is one way. This is just one way that you can add value to a property. Now, the benefit is that if you can add value like this by doing some extra development or in some way changing the property, this gives you a maximum advantage when it comes to refinancing. Now, at the moment, this property hasn't been refinanced, so we don't know what it's going to be valued up at. But if we just looked at the figures, you can see there that I've put an average of £450 a month for the rent. But actually, we know that some rooms are going to be a little bit higher. That one at the back will be £500 a month. But I just want to be cautious. I don't like to overestimate. I'm not one of these people who will pretend that, you can make millions overnight with HMOs. It's steady, but it's really good when it's steady. So in our area, let's say room rents are about an average of £450 a month. So that's £2,700 a month income. We generally would say that £100 a month would cover utilities for the tenants. Now, when I say utilities, I don't just mean gas, water, and electric. I'm also talking about cleaning, TV license, council tax, broadband, all those services bundled in together. If you divide them up by the number of tenants that are there, it comes to between £90 and £110 a month. So let's say £100 a month. So that's £600. Now, again, I don't know how much the new mortgage is going to be, but I've put in a figure, perhaps a reasonably high figure, but I don't want to underestimate that. We've put in something for voids and maintenance, because that's always useful to have that figure in, and management, because our business is managing that HMO. Now that HMO for that investor gives £1,020 a month fully managed income. So per annum, that's £12,000 income. At the moment, we don't know how much is going to be valued up at. So I haven't got those figures. I can't tell you, but let's assume that the investor has to leave £25,000 in. That is a 50% return on investment. Now, that is absolutely phenomenal in today's investing environment. Where can you get a 50% return on your investment? The last time I looked at my bank account, my savings account, it was giving me 0.1%. And in fact, even I invest in the stock market and I'm not getting anywhere near 50% return. Not only that, but since this property was bought, of course, we've gone through a bit of an uplift in values, haven't we? So this property is now worth, just in bricks and mortar alone, another 10%, at least another 10% from when it was bought. So you just can't win. sorry, you just can't lose. You can win, you can't lose, is what I meant to say. Here's another one. This is a project that we finished last year. So this is a 3-bed terraced house in Stoke. This was purchased. This actually was a rather long purchase because the owner was a bit reluctant to let the house go, but it had been empty for 2 years. So he was now paying double council tax on it. And I think the pain of that made him realize he's going to have to get a shot of it quickly. So we did a deal with him and we got this for £93,000. Now, it's a smaller house, so the refurb cost 57,000. So in total, it was about 150, probably another 5,000 for furniture and bits and bobs, you know, just to go in the kitchen and so on. So again, if we take my rule of thumb, which you take the whole cost, you divide it by the number of rooms, each room in this case cost £30,000. So every part of the country will have a different figure. It'll have a different figure for the total cost of the room. And in the tool that I'm going to share with you in the second half, it does all this calculation for you. So you don't even have to think about it, which is brilliant. But it's very useful to have this as a rule of thumb, because let's say you're going out to do a viewing and you know what it's like. Just to put in the chat panel, if right now in your area or the area you want to invest in, the market is hot, hot, hot. Just put in the chat panel, hot. In our area, it's really hot at the moment. There's probably 10 people for every property. Is it hot in your area, or is it actually cool? In which case, please tell us where you are. Yes, David says hot. AJ, hot. Anybody else? Has anybody else got a hot area at the moment where you are finding it a struggle to, you know, make viewings even, or get deals, or you can see property prices going up? Yeah, Krish is putting capital letters, hot. I think this, yeah, Olga, hot indeed, hot. Cam's very hot. His is burning hot. Perhaps not even able to get viewings at the moment, and prices are just steadily going up and up and up and up, aren't they? Now, the question is, will this continue? Of course, we know at the end of June, stamp duty reverts to properties. The stamp duty holiday will only be in place for properties that are valued at £250,000 or less. So anything that's over £250,000 will maybe slow down. We might see some steadying of prices. But let's not forget that the government have also borrowed an awful lot of money this year. The Bank of England have printed lots of money, and there is a bit of inflation going through the system, and people want to move. They're sick of living in city centre flats where they haven't got gardens, they haven't got quality of life. They want to buy somewhere which has got a garden, or somewhere for the children. They want some outdoor space. So we've seen lots of people move out of big cities, London and Birmingham and Manchester as a result, and move into more leafy areas, suburban areas. So this has actually been great for some parts of the country that haven't seen a lot of capital growth. But of course, it's hard when you're trying to buy property, because you know that you're paying more than you would have done a year ago. That's actually why I very much believe in not waiting, because over the time I've been investing in property, there have been times when property prices have stabilized and flattened out. Occasionally they've dropped. In 2007, property prices dropped and took probably 3 or 4 years before they came back to what they were before. But generally, over the time I've been investing, I have just seen a trend upwards. The first property I ever bought on a buy-to-let basis was £47,000, £46,000, about that, and it's now worth 4 times that. So you can't lose out. And I would say tonight, if you're wondering about whether to do this, if you're concerned about the heat in the market, then yes, you should always be careful. You've got to make sure that your numbers stack, and later on you're going to learn how to do that. But assuming that you can make this work, this is a great time to be buying, because people need places to live. And I'm going to share with you some really good statistics that hopefully will make you feel quite encouraged about the opportunities for HMOs. So going back to this Oriel Street project, the rental income per room is about £430. It's slightly less, so it's about £5,160 per room per annum. So that's about £25,800 per year. Now this was the floor plan, so you can see, come in, you've got one reception room downstairs and then the back room. In fact, this was the existing ground floor, so it was actually a lounge diner with a kitchen at the back and a bathroom, and then upstairs were 3 bedrooms. And this is how we turned it into a 5-bed HMO. The 2 rooms downstairs became bedrooms with no ensuite. We kept the bathroom, although we took the bath out and put a shower in. And then upstairs we had 3 bedrooms and 2 of them had an ensuite. And that house is fully tenanted and it looks lovely. So this is the end result of this particular project. So this property got valued up at just under £190,000. I think it was £189,000. And generally what happens with a commercial valuation is that the valuer will apply a multiplier. So they'll take the gross rent, they'll multiply it, then they'll take off something for bills. In our case, it was about 15%. And then you're left with a figure against which they will lend. So in this case, they were going to lend £165,000, and so the mortgage was £123,000. So there was about £26,000 left in this project. That was what, once all the money washed through, that's what was left in. However, if we look at the income minus the expenses, again, utilities about £100 a person per month, so that's £500. The new mortgage at 4% per annum is about £410, with voids and maintenance and management. The net profit, £890. So per annum, it's about £10,500 income, 40% return on investment. How would you like to be able to put £26,000 into a pot somewhere and in a year's time get back £10,680? In fact, I think it must be a bit more than that, about 42% ROI. So Olga asked, there were 6 single bedrooms, not 5. Now, Olga, I'm not quite sure which one you mean. Certainly not on Arrears Street. This was 5. But this previous one here, this was 6. The previous one that I showed you in Crewe, that was 6 bedrooms. So that's my second case study, if you like, tonight, and I've got another couple to show you as well. But what I'd like to ask is, right, sorry, yes, good show. That was the alternative. So if you can see, perhaps I need to just zoom up a little bit on my slide. So the plans you can see, Olga, very well spotted. You've got good eyesight. On the right-hand side, that was an alternative layout to room 3 upstairs, because we weren't sure how to lay out the en-suites. So one idea was to do an L-shaped back-to-back ensuite, and the other one was to do a literal back-to-back ensuite. So that what you see on the right there is just the alternative view from the architectural technician to show that. I hope that explains that for you. She's got good eyes, hasn't she, Olga? Well spotted. Okay, let me ask you a question now. Why do you think people rent an HMO room? Put your answers in the chat panel. Why is there a market? Have you ever rented an HMO room? Have you ever had to work away from home or live away from home for some reason? Maybe as a student, did you live in an HMO? Yes, Roy, cheaper rent, definitely, particularly if it's all inclusive. It makes sense, doesn't it? It's all together. Independence, yes, if you want to leave home, but you need somewhere which is kind of going to be a stepping stone to your own place. Roy once lived in an HMO. Andy did, actually. Andy once lived in an HMO, about 3 HMOs, and it was very, very helpful for him to do the research, I have to say. Social reasons, yes, Ian, you're quite right. Social reasons are a big reason why people like living in HMOs. Low cost, absolutely. You can be closer to friends and family, better than living with your parents. It can be much more convenient. Students, obviously, many of them up and down the country live in HMOs, don't they? Whether they're 5, 6, 7-bed HMOs or purpose-built student accommodation, which is effectively an HMO on steroids, really, isn't it? Migrants, really good point, because people coming into the country to work here, that it's very hard for them to get a mortgage and buy somewhere. They can't buy somewhere, they're going to have to rent. But if you were coming into the country and then you had to set up your direct debit for your council tax and all the bills, you know, it's a headache, isn't it? Who wants to do that? Wouldn't it be better to be able to rent all inclusive? So the key is there a market, and how big is this market? So why people rent an HMO room? You've got it in one. I've knocked over the microphone. Can you still hear me? I think you can still hear me. I got so excited about why people rent HMO rooms. There are many reasons why people rent HMO rooms. Now, this was some information that Knight Frank did. They are very good at carrying out surveys every couple of years. Admittedly, it was 2 years ago, 2019. So if you, you might wonder whether things have changed in the last couple of years, and probably have because of COVID. But you can see there that the majority of sharers, which is the group that we're looking at, the reason why they rent is because they don't have a mortgage deposit. And the second most common reason is it allows them to live somewhere that they can't afford to buy. The other reasons are still valid, but perhaps not so important to them. So there are a large group of renters who not only feel that this is their only option, but actually this is probably going to be their longer term option as well. If we look at how much average net household income these different groups have, so Knight Frank looked at lots of different types of renting groupings, if you like. So older families, mature families, baby boomers, sharers, people who are in solo, you know, they were individuals living on their own, and they did a very, very wide survey. What's really interesting is that sharers tend to have fairly average type incomes, so anywhere between 1,000 and 2,000 per month. That's up to 60% of sharers have between 1,000 and 2,000 pounds a month net income. So an HMO room costing anywhere between 500 and 700 pounds a month, with all the bills included, makes sense for them. It means that they don't have to fork out for any of the other bills, and it's much easier for them to then make sure they've got enough money for the rest of the month and budget. So HMOs is a very good approach for many people who are in that kind of bracket, that kind of income bracket. What's also interesting about this survey, and again, this may have changed over COVID, we haven't got updated 2021 figures, but in 2019, if you look at that list, again, under sharers, 67% of sharers expect to be renting in 3 years' time from 2019. And possibly now it's going to be even longer because of house prices going up. And it's really interesting that even across the whole of this survey, 69% of all tenants expect they will still be living in rented accommodation. So although the government are very keen to get people to buy their own homes, to be independent, to be able to, if you like, get off the renting housing ladder and get into the property housing ladder, a lot of people will not be doing that. In fact, majority of people will not be doing that. So if you couple that with new people who are going to be wanting to rent, then you've got a very, very big population of people who need rented accommodation. And one of the benefits, I think, of HMOs is how flexible it can be. So even if somebody stays for 5, 6, 7 months, they don't stay for much longer than that, they've been able to live somewhere that's clean, comfortable, well maintained, and it helps them to move on to the next stage of their journey, wherever that might be. But we have about 60% of our tenants who stay with us for more than 2 years. So what we find in our business is that we can easily add in new units, step by step, gradually we sort of add them in, whether that's our own units or ones that we are renting for other people, because we have a lettings business, so we rent for other people too. And we fill up that HMO, and then we can fill up the next HMO. And our occupancy rates are anywhere generally between 94 and 96%. Occasionally we hit the hallowed 100%, but often you have a turnover, you have somebody who's moving out or moving in. So you can't maintain 100% when you've got 170 rooms generally. So we've seen growth in this area over the last 5 years, and I think there's going to be more growth as well. And I think with COVID, as we come out of COVID and furlough, more people are going to be looking for this kind of accommodation. So why do I think, and I would like to know what you think, because remember I said at the beginning, this isn't just about me, this is about you as well. So why do you think investing in HMOs makes sense now? These are my reasons. While I'm talking, perhaps you might want to think about what you think about this. Well, poor savings rate. You know, I mentioned that earlier, that actually you're not going to get anything back in the bank, are you? If you want to get a return on your income, you have to do something different than stick it in the bank account, because you ain't going to get anything there. Pensions getting worse. People having to work longer to make ends meet. And do you want that to be you? Probably not. More people are having to move to find jobs. And as we come out of COVID and furlough, and with our new health secretary wishing to open up a little bit quicker, I think what we might see is that there's going to be a return to a bit more of normality. And that's going to mean people starting to look elsewhere to better their prospects. And when people move across the country, they don't always want to stay somewhere for 7 nights, but they might want somewhere for 5 nights. Now, it's possible they could go into serviced accommodation or short-term lets. That's another option. But what we found is that a lot of our tenants say we like to have somewhere where we can just dump our kit, you know, leave our stuff, we pay the rent, and then nobody ever bothers us. And that room's always ours for the next 6 months or 10 months while we're on placement, or while we've got a job opportunity in this area. That's a very, very powerful reason for many people living in HMOs. Property prices are increasing, so that even prices tenants further out of the property market. I love the fact that you have multiple streams of income in one property. If you have a buy-to-let property and somebody moves out, you might have 1 month's void, but that is all your income and you've lost it all. And if it takes a couple of months to rent the property, or possibly you have to do some refurb before you can rent it out, you might be waiting 2 or 3 months. But with an HMO, you've always got income. There's always somebody living in the property. Ideally, you want to fill it up, because that's how you make your profit, is on the last 2 or 3 rooms. But even if you haven't got it filled, having 2 or 3 rooms filled will give you enough turnover, so you're liquid. And that's why it's a very powerful strategy. I believe that just a handful can change your life. And earlier on, Clive, you asked how you can manage 5 HMOs. Now, for me, 5 is the magic number, because I believe that if you can aim to get 5 HMOs giving you about £1,000 a month income, you've got £5,000 a month income more than you had when you began. And that will allow you to make some choices. You can employ a VA, you can develop a team, you can have a letting agent. All of these are ways in which you can massively reduce your time. And leverage of your time and of your money is one of the key mindset changes that most people have to go through when they invest in HMOs, if they don't want to replace their full-time job with another full-time job. And you see, this is because money can be replaced, but time cannot. And one of the most powerful lessons I've learned in investing in HMOs is the returns are so good. And when done properly and done well, they can be so powerful that you become an attraction for people who want to give you their money. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. So before COVID, there was a pensions crisis, and it's even bigger now, isn't it? There's even more people now looking into the future thinking, oh, what's my pension going to be in a few years' time when I retire? And people are working differently, they're living differently. Because of COVID, they might be working remotely, they might be thinking about the future, they might be thinking about their options now that some of the industries that maybe they've relied on are no longer there. They're going to have to become more flexible and look further afield for work. And the savings rate, mentioned already that savers are losers because they're not making any money in the bank. I had somebody phone me up about 6 weeks ago saying they've got £35,000 to invest. Could I borrow it and give them a return? And I, of course, said yes. So I've given them a personal guarantee, and we're going to be using that money to do a refurb with, which is great. You can do that. This is what you can do when you start to learn how to leverage your experience and time with HMOs. It just takes a handful to change your life. These are all properties which I have bought, refurbished and filled with tenants. And as a result of having another couple on top of this, I was able to give up my well-paid job, and Andy, my husband, was able to give up his well-paid job. And it was an amazing day when he gave in his notice, because he was very stressed at work. And I can really understand how people in this day and age find work stressful, because there's more and more demands made of us. There's more emails every day, there's more phone calls every day, there's more targets we have to hit every day, there's more demands on us every day. And I think COVID has exacerbated that. And if you're here tonight because you want to make a change to your lifestyle, maybe you want to have more time, maybe just 2 HMOs would significantly change your life, then this is a great moment for you, because this is an opportunity for you to make it happen. Now, the HMO strategy is more advanced than buy-to-let. You can start small though with mini-mos. And in the second half, when we come back, I want to share with you a case study about a mini-mo. That was a question asked earlier on, how do you make the mini-mo strategy work? HMOs are powerful, not only because they serve people and provide great accommodation, not only because you can leverage them with commercial finance, not only because you as an investor grow, but they're also brilliant for raising money. I've tried to do joint ventures on single buy-to-lets. I've done a couple with a couple of friends, but basically the returns are so meager. You know, they might make £150 and I make £150. How many of those are you going to need to be financially free if that's your goal? Too many. So it didn't make sense for me to do it like that. Whereas when I started to invest in HMOs, because 50-50 might mean 500 for you and 500 for them, you get 5 properties together and you're each making £2,500. It's a much better way of making money, and it's a much faster way to do it. You do need to understand the legislation and regulations though, and we're going to talk about that in the second half a little bit, and your local area. So this is really a key. How do you know where to invest? This is a big issue, and I would like to explain to you how you can use my very simple but incredibly effective tool to focus on an area and make that area work for you. There are lots of options with HMOs: asylum seekers, charity leases, contracts with big companies. A lot of my mentoring clients have gone out, they've got their first HMO and they've leased it. In fact, one of my mentees went out and she next door to her HMO was a woman who ran a charity. And one day she came round and spoke to Sarah and said, "What are you doing?" And Sarah explained to her, and this woman said, "Well, I run a charity. Can I rent your house?" And Sarah said, "Well, yeah, how many rooms do you want to rent?" She said, "The whole thing. I'll rent the whole thing. I'll manage the whole thing. I'll give you your rental." So Sarah now makes £1,200 a month on that property, and she doesn't even have to manage it. It's completely hands-free. These are the possibilities that will open up to you when you decide to say yes and go for it. You must consider who's going to manage the HMO. Often normal letting agents don't quite have the experience. So that's a consideration, but it's all covered in my 5-step system. We look at all of these parts in turn to make them work. Now, we're going to go for a break in a minute, and then I want to come back and share with you this amazing tool. 2 things first. First of all, I want to just answer some questions. Roy says he doesn't want to be doing a regular job. Yes, that's a main key reason why many people decide they want to get invested in HMOs. There's some work to start with, Roy. It's not a passive income from day one. You're going to have to take some risks. You're going to have to follow the system. You're going to have to make it work, but it's life-changing. And it really does mean that you can design a lifestyle that you want to have. Clive, how much do the solar panels help with bills? We were fortunate that we got our solar panels fitted before the change in the recent tariff, which was probably about 3 years ago. And so we get quite a good return when the sun shines, which isn't as much as I would like. But when it does shine, we get very good returns. And in fact, we've even had money back from the grid because of the returns that the solar panels give, and it certainly pays for the cost of hot water, not heating, of course, because you don't need it when it's summer, but hot water and electricity for things like the tumble dryer and the washing machine and the dishwasher. So definitely that definitely does help. So over the break, we're going to have a 10-minute break now, just so you can go and get a cup of tea and refresh yourself before the next half. Because if the England football team, elite as they are, need a break, I think we do too, people. We are elite investors, and therefore we also need a break. Please come back, because the best is yet to come. There is the link to the form. I'd love it if you completed that during the break, and it'll give you a bit of an idea about how ready you are to invest in HMOs. Hello, Anne. Good to have you on tonight as well. Lovely to have you. I can't see you, but I know you're there, which is wonderful. So fill out the form. It'll give you a bit of an idea about how ready you are. And then if we come back, it's about 8, I make it 8:24 now. So if we make it 8:35, so 11 minutes, and we'll come back and we'll go into the second section, and I've got this fantastic freebie for you. So I'll see you soon. Hello, everybody. Are you back in the room? Just put back in the chat panel if you're back here. I'd love to know that you made it back from all your form filling in and getting a cup of tea or a drink of water. Fab. Clive's back, Cam's back, Gemma's back, AJ's back, Cecilia's back, Robert's back, fantastic. Janine's back, wonderful. Good stuff. Okay, while you're filling that in, one thing you've learned in the first session, just put it in the chat panel. What's one thing that has struck you, or something that you didn't know before, or something that's just, you know, made you think about HMOs differently? One thing in the chat panel. Right, Roy, love it. Other people can invest to help. Absolutely. Help you and help them. It's a win-win. It's a very powerful strategy to enable that to happen, actually. That's a great feedback. Thank you. Cecilia, calculate each room cost. Never think about it. I think perhaps what you mean is you've never thought about it that way, which is really, it's a powerful way of doing it, isn't it? If you're not good with maths like me. View the property to realize the full potential. Brilliant point, Cam. Absolutely. You want to be adding value as an investor. Janine, unfortunately, missed some of part 1. It's looking after poorly daughter. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, brilliant. You'll see the recording, Janine. Hopefully you can have an ear on the second half. Gemma, how scalable they are as a strategy. Yes, absolutely. I always used to use this phrase, cookie cutter approach. And in my first 10 HMOs, that's exactly what I did, was a cookie cutter approach. But once you start doing a cookie cutter approach for everything, do you know what? Don't tell anybody I said this, but it gets a bit boring. And I really wanted to change the cookie cutter approach. So what I did was I actually changed the interiors. I didn't really change the approach, because I knew that system worked. And that's the only problem with somebody like me. I'm creative. I like to make things. I like to do things. And sticking to a system is not the easiest thing for me, to have the discipline to do it. But I actually know that unless you have a cookie cutter approach, it actually doesn't work as well, because you're reinventing the wheel every time. And that's why I always talk about my 5-step system, which I'm going to tell you a little bit about this evening as well. Great. Okay, this is amazing. You've all been participating and sharing and asking great questions. And I know I've got topics here on my notepad that I'm going to make sure that we cover before we get to the end of this evening. So let me just get my slides up and running. What about a live-in HMO? Oh, that's an interesting one. Would you like to go and live in an HMO? Do some research for us there, Roy. You could if you wanted to. Tell us what it's like. Okay, just get this slideshow going from current slide. Here we go. Okay, so Three core problems that I see with many people, and one of the reasons why I put together that jot form, which you very kindly filled in and you'll be getting your reports through, is because I've worked with a lot of people who have really tried to make HMOs work as a strategy, but have not always been able to do it. And the reason is very often because they lack one of these things. They either haven't got time, or they haven't got money, or they haven't got knowledge. Now, I actually think that the most important thing is knowledge, because time you can always make. There are always ways in which you can change your lifestyle if you're committed enough. If you decide this is something you want to do, it will take focus and it will take energy. But time is something that all of us only have 24 hours in the day. And how we choose to use that resource is entirely up to that and entirely up to us. If we choose to use it watching television and on social media and not being very productive, that's one use of time, but it isn't necessarily going to get you to your goals. But that is a big problem. In fact, I would say that it's not so much time, it's energy, because if you had more energy, then you might feel that you had more time. Believe you me, when you have a focus, like making an extra £3,000, £4,000, £5,000 a month within 2 to 3 years, which is what I did, it gives you energy, it gives you focus. The second problem is money. And quite often when you haven't got much money and you're thinking about HMOs, then rent to rent is a great solution. Now, I don't go into a lot about rent to rent tonight, but on my 3-day course, we actually have a whole section on rent to rent. And Ian is our rent to rent expert, and he's coming along to share exactly how to get your rent to rent business up and running. My 5 steps fit beautifully into that rent to rent strategy because they're exactly the same. But instead of buying the property, you're renting it from somebody else. And he's got some great case studies about how he has taken properties that have been a bit unloved and a bit neglected by their owner, done them up, and he's rented them out to individuals. But not only that, but he's rented them out to charities. He's rented them out to social housing providers. So he's just been the man in the middle. Brilliant. But you can only get that if you come on the 3-day event, which I'll tell you a little bit about in a minute, because it might be right for you. And of course, the third one is knowledge. Where do you find this knowledge? Now, I produce a lot of resources. If you follow me on social media or you listen to my podcast, I believe in education. I believe in being educated. Knowledge is great, but it doesn't necessarily need to lead to action. And tonight, I am going to challenge you a little bit to say, what action will you take as a result of being here this evening? What could you do next? And I know the feeling of fear when it comes to investing and when it comes to having to invest in your own knowledge or invest in your education. It can feel very scary because you're not sure what result you're going to get. I am committed to anybody who I work with to getting better results. That's my raison d'etre. I believe that by working with me and my team, Ian, who is rent-to-rent expert, social housing expert, and money-raising expert, and Kirsty, who is our commercial conversion expert and commercial property expert, we have the time, the knowledge, and the expertise to help you to get great results from our programs. So to solve your problems, there are probably some skills you need to learn. Learning how to raise finance is a key one. The start of it is knowing what asset to produce in order to then leverage to raise the finance. But there's more than that. You're going to have to learn some of the rules and regulations, the FCA guidance, how to do it ethically, how to do it correctly, how to do it morally. We have a whole section on my 3-day event just down to raising finance. How do you leverage to your advantage? So you haven't got much time. And Clive earlier on mentioned about managing 5 HMOs. How could you leverage that time to your advantage? Well, I do believe that starting to learn to outsource to a team or a VA is a vital skill that you'll have to have as an investor if you're running HMOs, unless you want to manage them yourself. And maybe 1 or 2 you can manage fine. In fact, one of my mentees has got 60 rooms and she manages them all herself on her own without any help. Amazing. But not many people want to do that. She enjoys looking after the tenants. You might need support to help you juggle a family, or you might have a part-time or a full-time job, as well as a burgeoning property business. So having support to be able to do that is critical so that you keep going, because this is not a get-rich-quick program. How are you going to make it happen without support around you? You'll have to learn how to manage your diary or your time better. It might be that certain things have to go out the window. It might be certain things you have to stop doing. It might be that you have to prioritize getting up earlier in the morning. Whenever I've had a big project on, I've often had to get up at 5 or 5:30 in the morning to get my work done for that project before I have my other priorities come into view, particularly when I was working full time. Outsourcing, as I mentioned earlier, systemizing. Not a skill that we're born with, is it? I certainly wasn't born to be a systemizer, but I know the power of systemization. And my 5-step system, which includes future-proofing it, which is a little bit different from perhaps other programs that are out there, helps you to systemize your business so you can travel the world, so you can spend 3 mornings in bed till midday, so you can go and do what you like with your time, so you can go and work with a charity, so you can give your time to the community, so you can spend your time with your family, so you don't have to worry about money, so you don't have to fear the future. Because those are the things I know go on in people's heads. They worry about money, they worry about their health, they worry about their parents, or they worry about their children. And these are very important things to be worried about. But why not tonight do something to change that fear and turn it into a pathway of action and hope? That's, to me, what HMOs represent. But you will need focus to do it and commitment to make it happen. Steve Jobs said this: people think focus means saying yes to the thing you've got to focus on, but that's not what it means at all. It means saying no to the 100 other good ideas that are there. You have to pick carefully. Isn't that a great saying? Put yes in the chat panel if you think that is a great saying. I think that's a really great saying. You might not. You might say, no, don't like Steve Jobs, don't like Apple. That's what Andy would say. He doesn't like Apple much. But I think that's a great phrase. Roy agrees with me. He thinks that's a great phrase too. Roy, just coming back to what you said, you meant convert your home into an HMO. You could indeed. I've known people to do that, move out and buy another house for themselves to live in. You could indeed do that. So having focus is very valuable in this game. Now, I can see somebody has raised their hand. David has raised their hand. I think hopefully you're raising your hand to say, yes, you like that phrase. And that's great. Now, I've mentioned my 5-step system. If you know anything about me, you will know that I created this system to help me to create a cookie cutter approach for my business. So the 5 steps, very easy because I'm a simple soul, so I need things done simply. Find it, fund it, finish it, fill it, and future-proof it. Now, a lot of people might have the first 4. They might teach you how to find an HMO, how to raise the finance, how to perhaps get the mortgage. They'll teach you how to do the refurb. They'll teach you how to kit it out. They'll teach you how to get the tenants. But what I don't often see is people talking about future-proofing. And I don't just mean future-proofing in terms of the building, making sure that it's maintained and filled. I mean in terms of you as a business owner. How are you future-proofing yourself? How are you making sure that every week that goes by, you're doing less and less in the business, and yet it's still growing and being profitable? How do you become the leader of your business rather than the person who's doing everything? Because creating an HMO business, whether it's 1 HMO or 25 HMOs or 50 HMOs, is about creating a business that's systemized and scalable. And that is very important if you are going to have ongoing income. It gives you choices, it gives you opportunities, it gives you ability to make decisions that right now you're not even being faced with those decisions because you don't have the choice. But having a future-proof business where it runs without you is a very, very powerful strategy. Now, on my 3-day course, we break each of these areas down further. So the 3 days, really, we just take time to work out each of these different steps, to answer questions, to get you involved, to get you doing activities and exercises and so on, so that you learn each of those steps in depth. And it's a really powerful 3-day event. After it, you'll have a clear plan of action. You'll understand what your next steps should be, and it'll help you to go away and implement straight away getting involved in HMOs. And tonight, as a result of you staying on till the end, I'm going to give away one of those incredibly valuable tools that we normally only give to people who come on our 3-day event, but I'm going to actually share this with you tonight as a very special gift. Now, there are some myths about HMOs that we probably need to cover. Oversaturation. Well, in a minute, I'm going to share with you a tool that I've developed to see whether in your area it is saturated, because I think there are some areas of the UK which are saturated with HMOs. And why would you want to invest there if there are already too many? So what you want to be finding out is an area that is not oversaturated, and my tool will help you to do that. Now, Article 4 is a planning restriction. What it means is that where you could normally develop an HMO through what's called permitted development, the council have removed that right for you to do it. It doesn't mean it's impossible to do an HMO in that area. And there are pros and cons. I've got some friends who invest in Leeds, and they do very, very successful HMOs, and they get planning permission. So it's not impossible. But certainly I would say if you're investing in an area, you need to find out whether Article 4 exists there or not, just so you're prepared. Property prices are too expensive to get a deal. Well, I'm sure they are in some parts of the country. But remember, property is not just the price you pay, it's the return you get. If you are paying a lot for your property, but you're making £700 or £800 a month on the room rental, then you might say, well, actually, the return is commensurate with the price I'm paying. You see, it's all about mindset. It's all about what you know and how you apply it. Council tax on rooms is becoming a problem. Well, it's true. I'm fighting a campaign at the moment to abolish council tax on HMO rooms, because some HMOs in England have had their rooms levied with council tax individually. But actually, it's a rarity. I have talked to many, many people, and the majority it is not happening to. It's a fear factor, and it shouldn't hold you back. But again, this is some insight and some knowledge that we have in HMO success that I don't think any other HMO training company has got at the moment, because we're right on the forefront of it and we're working with the experts and government too. And actually, I'm extremely hopeful about this, so I don't think you should worry about it either. HMOs only work in the north. No, I've got friends investing in the south. I've got a friend, one of my mentoring clients, who bought 10 HMOs in the last year in Basildon, and she's making them work all very well. Thank you very much, in Essex. No one wants to rent an HMO room if they can rent a flat. No, as we've seen from the research, a lot of people want to rent HMO rooms for lots of different reasons. And actually living in a flat can be very isolating and doesn't give you the quality of life that you want. Now, those are some of the myths that I've heard. Those are some of the objections that people throw at me about HMOs. What objections do you have? Do you have a query or a question, or maybe a mindset problem that makes you think, I'm just not sure? What is it that holds you back from doing it? Is it the money? Is it the time? Is it the knowledge? Is there a fear factor there? Just put in the chat panel what it is that's maybe stopping you from investing in HMOs right now. So some really good answers. Thank you for your honesty. Appreciate it. Fear, says Janine, fearful about it. Roy says we currently don't have money to invest. Clive doing it on his own. He enjoys working with a partner. That's a great answer, Clive. Thank you. Cecilia, property price is too expensive. And I hear that as well, Cecilia, that it can be people think it's too expensive. Rent arrears. Yeah, that was something you were worried about, wasn't it? How to reduce rent arrears. With a good system and very careful management, you should be able to avoid rent arrears. Now, they're not unavoidable. There are some tenants who will get into rent arrears. One of the things that we did over COVID, because we knew that people might start to take advantage because the government said we couldn't evict them, was we set up a process whereby if they knew they were going into rent arrears, we would immediately sort out a payment plan with them. So this is where getting a good HMO agent is really critical. And we've produced a brilliant cheat sheet to help you choose a great HMO letting agent. You can't get that tonight, though. I'm afraid I save that for my paid clients. Roy says the same, worry that people won't pay their rent. It's certainly something to be aware of, that you will possibly have a little bit of bad debt, but manage carefully and manage well. It really isn't the big issue if it's managed properly. We have a lot of rooms now, and we have a minimal amount of problems with rent arrears. David says, I thought that you need to have buy-to-let experience before going into HMO. You told said on an event like this that wasn't the case, so I'm going for it. Love it. It all depends, David. To be honest, if you decided to go into HMOs without any experience, there'll be some pros and cons for you. One of the things I would recommend, and I'd recommend it to anybody tonight on the call, is have a call with a commercial mortgage broker. That commercial mortgage broker will be able to help you evaluate your own financial situation. I'm not regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority, so all I can do is give you education. But that mortgage broker will be FCA regulated and can give you investment mortgage advice. And I would recommend that you build a great relationship with a mortgage broker, and they will look at all of your finances, and quite often they can find deals or products that are released into the mortgage market that I don't even know about because they've only just been released. So I would always say, get your finance right from the beginning. Okay, some great fears there. And these are real fears. And, you know, I've done quite a lot of study on the brain, and the brain uses fear to search for more information. Quite often when we've got fear, what we find we do is we try and look for information to kind of overcome that fear. But ultimately, the only thing that will really overcome your fear is taking action, is making a decision to do something. And it's amazing how at that point where you say, I'm going to do it, or I'm not going to do it, equally, they're good decisions. You might decide tonight, that's it, I'm through with HMOs, I'm not doing it. And that's just as good a decision as, yes, I'm going to do it. But sitting on the fence does not help you, because it doesn't matter how much information you have, that fear is not going to go away. And that's why I love to work with people, because I believe that I can inspire them. I believe that I can help them. I've got the practical, tangible tools that can help you to get to where you want to be with HMOs. But it's really a case of you deciding that that's what you want to, and you're prepared to go for it. Now, I haven't told you much about me so far. I didn't want to start with me, but I'm going to just throw a little bit in here, because for some of you might not know me very well. I thought it's good to just give a bit of context. So that's me and my hubby, Andy. I think we just come back from a long bike ride, or we were on a bike ride that particular day. And I have since 2013 invested in HMOs. Started in 2013. I had a small portfolio of buy-to-lets, and now we have over 170 rooms that we own or manage. We've got about 100 of our own and about 70 that we now rent for other people. We run an award-winning lettings agent which specializes in HMOs, but we have single buy-to-lets as well. We've also got a commercial building, we have a pub, and we have various other properties as well, most of which we have bought with investor finance. I'm the author of 2 Amazon best-selling books, the yellow one, the 101 Essential Tips, which you may have read already, and my Extraordinary Profits from Ordinary Properties book, which is a little bit more in depth. I'm a successful mentor and trainer. My business HMO Success has been running for about 4 years now, and we've trained hundreds of people to invest in HMOs. And now I have 2 other people who help me in the business who are wonderful, and I'm very grateful to them being part of this too. I've created my own lifestyle from being really a stressed out mother of 4, working part-time and having too much month at the end of the money. I now have a lifestyle which I really love. And not only that, but I have the knowledge and the confidence to know that I can grow and do really whatever I would like to do in life by applying what I know. And I do about 4 hours a week on my HMO business. You may be part of the HMO Success System group, in which case, thank you very much for being part of Facebook. And hopefully you might have listened to my podcast. Every week I do a different episode, interviews sometimes, and then other times it's me sort of rabbiting on about some such subject to do with HMOs in some way, shape or form. And if you do listen and you enjoy it, I'd love it if you could give me a rating. But that's just more free content for you to digest and enjoy. And since 2013, Andy and I have both left well-paid jobs. We've created a multi-million-pound property portfolio. We're financially free. We've helped hundreds of people, which is probably one of my greatest achievements. But I've also helped my children to invest. And I'm going to show you a picture of them in a moment because I'm very proud of my boys. I ran the London Marathon in 2019, and as a fool, I'm doing it again this year. Oh dear. So tomorrow I'm out there pounding the streets. It's my 16-mile run tomorrow morning. Yes, pity me. And we've donated thousands of pounds to charity. We very much believe in helping the world with our wealth. So we have a lot of charities that we support across the world on a regular basis. And for me, it is a tremendous feeling of fulfillment to know that we can help other people in the way that we've been blessed. So this is my family. Not the girl. Anna is my son Johnny's girlfriend. I've got boys. I was good at creating boys, and it was a cookie cutter approach. Yes. Exactly the same way as creating a handful of HMOs, although having children was slightly more fun at the beginning, but definitely hard work at the end, having them. Anyway, the less said about that, the better. So this is my reason why, and you have your reason why. You probably have children or perhaps caring responsibilities, or maybe you just want to get out of your job. Maybe you're just a bit fed up with your lifestyle. Maybe you just think, I really want to do something else with who I am and what I am. And I can completely get that. Because life can be tough at times, can't it? Life can be disheartening and hard work. And money isn't everything. Money is not what I live for. But certainly having the freedom to choose is incredibly powerful. It's incredibly meaningful. And knowing that I can help my boys invest. My eldest son, Sam, who's the blurry one there because he was laughing when the photo was taken, he's in Australia. He's got a property back here, an investment property. And he earns money from it each and every month while he's out in Australia. My second son across the table there, Johnny, he's just buying his first buy-to-let property right now. Luke hasn't yet. He's just graduating from university, and Tom is a little bit young, but he will. And I'm really proud that I can do that for them. I've helped people like you. So this is Sarah, who I mentioned earlier. She is a fundraising manager, really has a very stressful job. And she bought this HMO, bought this property. She started with just over £50,000. So if you've got £50,000 or more to invest, you can get going on HMOs. Sarah's an example of such a person. She works full time, so she's very, very busy, but she's now making over £1,200 a month on her first deal, and she's working on her second deal right now. Just 3 HMOs will allow her to retire, and she can't wait. Tunji, he's an IT project manager based down in the south. So this is one of his projects in Maidstone, and he's done a joint venture with another investor. He didn't have all the money to buy the project and to buy the house and do the refurb, so he's done it with another investor. And in fact, he's bought the other house on the side. So this is a semi, and he's bought both of these properties, and he's turning them one by one into HMOs. And he will make £3,500 a month profit. In fact, the first one is nearly ready to go. If he can make £6,000 a month, he will give up his job. And his aim, he's been working with me for about a year now, and he's just renewed his mentoring for a second year, and he'll be doing this by the end of next year. Amazing. Working full time, 50+ hours a week. Brian Tracy once said, commit yourself to lifelong learning. The most valuable asset you'll ever have is your mind and what you put into it. And tonight, that's what you've done. You've said, I'm not going to watch telly. I'm not going to do any other things that I could be doing. I'm going to be on this webinar with Wendy, learning about HMOs. And I commend you for that, because a lot of people wouldn't be here tonight. There's a lot of people who register for sessions and they don't turn up because something else gets in the way, because they're not really committed. They don't really want to learn, but you do. I sense you want this, and there's a reason why you want this. And that's why you're here tonight. And that's why I'm here tonight, because if you want it, I want it for you, and I want to help you make it happen. Now, there are some other resources that in the community we bring, but some of them require a bit of an exchange. So we run a 3-day event about once a quarter called the HMO Intensive. Now, it's a 3-day full-on training, similar to what we've done tonight, interactive. We have a bit of fun and games. We have different exercises and activities, lots of breaks as well, so you're not bored sitting in front of the computer. There's lots to do, but we also give you lots and lots of other resources with it as well. So I'd like to just share with you briefly, if I may, how you can participate in that. And then once I've told you about the 3-day event, I want to share with you the very special tool and explain how you can use it. So tonight, at the end of the webinar, you can go away with that and start to utilize it straight away. So Kirsty Darkins, she is our commercial specialist. She is an independent surveyor. She's got a very good reputation in the property world, and she runs her own programs, but she has come into HMO Success as an expert. So she's an expert mentor who works with us during the month if you're working on commercial deals or commercial property. Ian is our rent-to-rent and social housing specialist there. Nice big grin, and I'm on the right. So he's a bit of a rose between two thorns, I would say. And together we present and run HMO Success. And both Ian and Kirsty will be running sessions on the 3-day event about their specialist subjects too. So it's going to be a great 3 days. Now, if you want to get going on HMOs, if you know that this is right for you and you feel ready to do this and you want to work with me, then this is the way to do it. This is how to build your income, knowledge, and confidence. So our next 3-day event is coming up in July. It's the 9th to the 11th of July, and it is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It will be an event to demonstrate to you how you can unlock wealth through HMOs, both through raising finance, through the power of that, learning how to do that with all the right tools, but also learning how to create an HMO model that you can create a cookie cutter approach for, because those are the 2 key things for HMOs. You'll create a plan to leave your job or change your life and create an additional income stream. And we're also going to give you a fantastic bundle of tools, which I'll explain in a moment. You're going to have access to me, Kirsty, and Ian over the weekend, so we can answer all your questions that you might have about HMOs or commercial property. And you'll learn the 5 steps to get you to where you want to be in depth. Changing your mindset is as important as changing your income. And we do that by helping you to change your actions. So we create an action plan that throughout the weekend you'll be working on, and then by the Sunday evening, you've got a really clear plan of action, steps to make it happen, practical, tangible steps. Learn how to create enough cash flow to leave your job, or when we can, to travel the world. Not yet, but maybe just travel around England for the time being. It's 3 days of amazing interactive online training. You get fantastic case studies and a really good overview of each of the 5 steps of the system. Now, not only that, but I have produced what I call my killer HMO starter pack. Now, unfortunately, I would love to show you one tonight, but my very last one has simply flown off the shelves 2 days ago. So I don't even have a demonstrator to show you today, but this is a physical kit that you will get in the post when you decide to come on our 3-day HMO intensive event. And inside that kit, you get a number of fantastic goodies. You get a copy of each of my books, paperback copies. So you can, if you've listened to the audio or you've maybe downloaded the Kindle version, you can now get it to actually scribble in, and you haven't paid for it. It's absolutely free. You'll also get our 16 Weeks to Success step-by-step weekly activity schedule, which will help you to plot out your HMO project. It has all the 5 steps outlined, so it's really easy to follow, and it just makes it so simple for you to know what to do each week that you are starting your HMO project. You get a full deal analysis toolkit. So this is everything you need to analyze a deal. And you get a project planner system. So if you've never done a project before, that comes as part of the kit. You get fantastic budget and costings master sheets. You get a tenancy pack. You get the how to add maximum value to a property overview, the 7 creative ways that I mentioned earlier. We also give you a fantastic USB. It's an 8 gigabyte USB stick with all our HMO case studies in there that you can copy and model, and also videos. And on the USB stick, you've got training videos to show you what we did in each of those HMOs and how you can do it too. If you're going to use an agent, how do you choose one? We've created a cheat sheet to help you to find the right HMO agent. And we've also included our virtual assistant toolkit, which includes contracts, job descriptions, task sheets, and everything that you need to set up your relationship with a virtual assistant if you want to start to leverage your time. Now, all of that is in a fantastic pack, and you also get a workbook for the 3-day event. So this is an amazing bonus, and actually normally this bonus sells for about $697 plus VAT, because it's really intellectual property that we've developed over the last 3 years. So that kind of outlines everything that you get into that kit. So normally that would retail at $697 plus VAT, but the whole bundle, the 3 days plus the killer HMO starter pack, the books, the study guide. Oh, you get a pen. I forgot to mention that. The HMO Success pen. Oh, that's worth every penny. You get fantastic 16 weeks to success personal project planner. And also Ian has created a mastery marketing toolkit for finding off-market deals, particularly good if you want to do rent to rent. Now, normally this would retail for $997, but tonight we have a very special offer. I think you like special offers, don't you? Who doesn't like a special offer? Of course, we all like below market value. So because you've shown up and you've spent this time with me, tonight only offer is $697 plus VAT. You get the whole lot for just $697 plus VAT. You also get recordings of the 3 days. So it means you can go back and watch it afterwards and fill in all the bits that you didn't perhaps think of or listen to at the time. Now, the other thing I'd also like to do is if you are concerned about how you're going to get started, or you'd love to come on the 3 days, but you need some individual support and advice, maybe you filled in the form earlier on, the self-assessment form, and it's given you a maybe feedback. I'm also going to offer 3 people a 1-hour free strategy call. Now, a 1-hour free strategy call, I charge £180 for plus VAT. No, that includes VAT. Sorry, it's £150 plus VAT. So to you, it's worth £180. But for the first 3 people that decide they want to come on the 3-day event, I will give that to you absolutely free. And we can book that in at a time that suits you. So the investment is just $697 plus VAT. If you decide this is what you want to do, and this is the right time for you to approach your learning and make it happen, you can bring a partner along, by the way, because it's virtual, it's online. So you can have your whole family in the room, and I'm not going to know, am I? So, you know, benefit for you, bring your partner for free. It's just $697 plus VAT for the full 3-day event. You get the killer starter pack bonus kit, both the books that I have written, and you can scribble in them to your heart's content. You get the study guide, the HMO Success pen, the 8 gig USB stick with everything on it, the 16 weeks to success personal project planner, and the HMO mastery marketing toolkit for finding deals. It's the biggest bonus bundle we've ever given away. It's absolutely tremendous. And it really means that any of the questions you ever have about HMOs will be answered. There'll be something in that kit that will answer your questions. Now, I've put the link into the chat panel. If you decide tonight, yes, I want to go for this, Wendy, and you're one of the first people, you can book in for that 1-hour free strategy call. As soon as I see that coming through, we can see the timestamps, and I'll come back to you, or my VA will come back to you, and we can contact you to get that 1-hour free call. You just need to click on that link that's in the chat panel. It will take you to PayPal. Now, if you have a PayPal account, you can pay direct with PayPal, or you can pay with your credit card. You can put your credit card details in, or your debit card details, and that will go through. If you have any problems, just message me and I will make sure I will see your message. You can message me independently or privately or reply to an email, and I'll make sure I get that. I follow up on all messages that I get. And if you have problems with paying, please let me know, and I'll make sure that we sort out a way in which you can pay. And we also have, this is the screen that you will see when you go through to the PayPal screen. Robert, I'll come back to you in a second. Thank you. Good question. So come through to the PayPal screen, the cost will come up there, and then you have to just put in your payment. And if you decide to come, it'd be fantastic to see you because you made the right choice. Fantastic, Roy. Thank you very much indeed. You'll be the first one then. That's excellent. Great to see you there. Really looking forward to it. Robert, can I come back to your question? It's a really good question about the course. We are still offering classroom courses when we can and when COVID allows. We have been really stuck this year because we know that people want to get together. Who doesn't want to get together? We've all been stuck behind computer screens, haven't we? We can't wait to do it, but we're just nervous. What we don't want to do is book a hotel and then find that we have to unbook the hotel because, you know, the government changes its guidelines. But yes, as soon as we are out of, you know, fuller lockdown, as soon as things are a little bit more free, we definitely will be doing this in person, but we just don't know when that's going to be. And what I wouldn't want people to do is to think, well, I'll wait until we can meet in a hotel, because that could be the end of the year. And I don't want you to miss out on the opportunity to invest in HMOs now, because this is a great time to be doing it. Some really good testimonials. TJ said, without Wendy and Ian's help, I would have spent far more and wasted a lot more of my time. My first HMO will make me £3,500. I found this because I learned from the experts. And Sarah said, I could never have done this without you, Wendy. You gave me the information and support, and I'm on my way to leaving my stressful job. Thank you. And we have lots and lots of phenomenal testimonials because we don't work with hundreds of people. We're not the biggest property training company in the UK. We focus on HMOs, we focus on your results, we focus on getting you great deals and great opportunities. And for me, what I get such a lot of buzz out of is seeing people like you achieve great results. And that's what I want more than anything. Just quickly go through this, and then I'm going to move on to that fantastic tool and explain to you how you can get that and use that today. So it's an investment of just $697 plus VAT for the 3-day event for yourself and a partner. You'll get the Killer Starter Pack bonus kit. You get both the books. You'll get our study guide for the weekend. You get our HMO Success pen and an 8GB USB stick with videos and tutorials to help you. You get the 16 Weeks to Success personal project planner so that you know exactly what to do step by step on the 5-step system. You get our HMO Mastery Marketing Toolkit. If you're looking to get off plan, or should I say off market deals, if you want to go direct to vendor, there's a way to do it. And our Mastery Marketing Toolkit will enable you to do that with all the material you need to make that happen. Now, I don't know how many people have already bought. I haven't checked yet, but I can see that there are a couple of people who've messaged me who have now reserved their space. So if you want to be one of those people to get a free 1-hour strategy call, I'd recommend that you go straight now to PayPal and make your payment. Otherwise, those places will go, and would still love to see you on the 3-day event, but I'd love to be able to offer you some one-to-one support before then. And I'm only offering that to 3 people because my time is limited leading up to the 3-day event. Now, we said earlier that just a handful of HMOs can change your life, and I very much believe that. But the biggest question often on people's lips is, where should I invest? Do I go for an area of high yield, but will I get lower capital growth? Do I want to go for an area where I'll get high cash flow, but on the other hand, the purchase price is going to be much higher? Or do I go for somewhere where I know it's going to appreciate, but I'm going to have lower income? You've got to know your target market. You've got to know your area. And over the last year, I've been working on a really good tool. I think it's an amazing tool, actually. I wish I'd had this tool when I first started working and investing in HMOs, because I think with this, it would have really, really saved me huge amounts of time and heartache wondering about where I should invest. Now, I call it my deal sourcing spreadsheet because I can't think of a more fancy name. You might be able to come up with a nice fancy name. And this is what I'm going to send to you tonight. You're going to get a link to a Dropbox folder, and inside the Dropbox folder is going to be a copy of this spreadsheet. Now, I'm just going to stop my video share and I'm going to share the actual spreadsheet and explain to you how this works. So this spreadsheet has got 7 tabs along the bottom, and this spreadsheet will allow you to do a full detailed in-depth analysis on not only your area, but also on an individual property that you might want to turn into an HMO. Now, unlike a lot of deal analysis spreadsheets, what this one also has is data about spare room. And spare room is one of those tools which, as you become more kind of engaged in HMOs, you'll probably want to learn a lot about. So along the bottom, we've got sourcing sheet, refurb costs, spare room analysis, deal analysis, and due diligence checks. Now, if I start with the due diligence check, you can see that there are a number of different questions to answer about your local area. I think this is vital because one of the things that people often miss is they look for supply and demand on spare room, they look for property prices, but they haven't looked at the wider area. And without looking at the wider area to see what's going on, you're going to miss some of the vital factors that will give you ideas about where to invest and where's best to invest. So certain things that I would recommend that you look for. Transport links, what are they like? You've got an opportunity here to fit them in. And I was doing an example on Preston earlier. So that's why Preston is in the box. You don't have to invest in Preston. What are the local amenities like? What infrastructure improvements are happening in the area? Now, you can get a lot of this by downloading the local plan from the local council. The local plan gives you an idea of all the things that are going to be happening in the next 5 to 10 years in your location to see where they are going to be investing, where the regeneration is going to be happening. Now, you want to be gathering all that information in one place because that is a vital part of your due diligence on your HMO. If you know these facts, if you know how is the population growing? And by the way, you can find that out from the Office for National Statistics. If you know where there's going to be a new train station or a new link road, these are going to influence the value of properties in that area, the amount of people coming into the area to work, and the value of your property. This is often missed by people. So that's why it's on my deal sourcing spreadsheet, because I think this is vital for you to gather that information to give you a picture of that particular area. Now, if you're not sure where to invest, don't do this exercise for more than 3 areas because you'll get analysis paralysis. Choose 3 areas, start to look at them in depth, fill out the detail, fill out the form that show that you know, if you like, grabs that information, grabs the data, and from that it'll start to become clearer where is your ideal area. Now let me take you through the sourcing spreadsheet next. So we start with the first tab, which is called sourcing. Now all you need to do is fill in the yellow boxes. So if you're like me and you're not particularly mathematical or spreadsheety, which I'm not really, I want something simple, and I'm sure you do too. And this is simple. So all you ever need to do on any of these tabs is fill out the yellow boxes and the rest of it will happen. So let's take an example. Right, I would like an offer. Who would like to make an offer of a location where we could think about investing, where we could think about buying an HMO? Just somebody throw something into the chat panel. Somewhere in England. Southampton, I love it. Great stuff, Roy. Okay, perfect. So let's put in Southampton in the chat panel, in the, sorry, not in the chat panel, in the spreadsheet. Put in Southampton. I don't know what the postcode is. It's SO1, I think it isn't it? That would be central Southampton. That might not be the postcode area we're looking at, but just for sake of argument. Now, let's imagine I had an eye on a property. I thought, oh, that could work. It was quite a nice large property, not too expensive. I would put the full details in here and the postcode. Now, let's imagine that the asking price, I suspect Southampton is probably pretty pricey. Let's put in £160,000 for sake of argument. So I have to put that in because it's a yellow box. Now, in the next box, what I'm doing is I'm putting in the ceiling price from local comparables. This is going to take you a little bit of research, but you can see the asterisk there that says, goes down to the red box, you can find this on Rightmove by checking sold prices in the area. If you cannot find a property similar to the one you're looking at, compare by floor area and price per square foot. So this is going to take a little bit of time to go through Rightmove, go through the sold prices on Rightmove and find out a similar house in a similar location. And what we're looking for is what's the highest price that a property is sold for, let's say in the last 6 months. Now, let's imagine, again, I know I'm making this up off the top of my head, but I'm going to just give you this example. You'll have this recording to refer to, so you can come back and watch this again. Let's say the highest price is £200,000, just for sake of argument. Now, we also want to do the same with lowest prices. So what's the lowest price from local comparables? Should we say, I don't know, £150,000? Let's just pretend. So far, what we're doing here is we're looking at the market, we're looking at the range of prices in an area, because this will give us an idea of where our property sits within that price range. Now, let's imagine that we could make 6 rooms. Let's try and do a 6-room HMO. We're going to find the jewel in the crown in this one. So it's going to be a 6-bed HMO. Now, all the blue boxes are then worked out for you. So what's the median price in the area? It's 175. What's the asking price of our property compared to the median price? It's £15,000 under. So that's good, because that gives us a little bit of head height for adding value. What's the percentage of our asking price is as a percentage of the median price? And so on. What's the asking price of the property compared to the ceiling price and compared to the ceiling price in percentage terms? Now, if we were going to do a basic, let's say, buy-to-let refurb, this calculator adds on 10% to the ceiling price in the area. To the median price, to give you a bit of a ballpark figure of, if you bought it for 160, it might revalue up at 192,500 on a bricks and mortar basis. But of course, for HMOs, it's a little bit more complicated than that. So we're going to come back to that in a moment. The next one is the refurb estimate. Now, this one will come from the next sheet, which is the refurb sheet. So we're just going to pause and not fill that one in right now. The next one is a yellow box, so we fill that in. And for a lot of these 3-bed terrace houses, they're about 85 to 90 square meters. So I'll put in 85 for sake of argument. So that gives us a price per square meter. And that's again useful when we're doing our calculations. So apart from the green box, which is still sitting at 0, we filled out all the detail on the first sheet. Now, the next sheet is refurb costs. Now, if you've not done a refurb before, then you may have to consult a builder. On our 3-day event, we take you through the whole process of doing an evaluation on a refurb, so you know exactly what the costs are. And for speed, you can see it's already been completed, the blue box there on the left, but just for speed, for the example, I'm going to put into here that, let's say the refurb comes in at £60,000. Again, not £6,000, quite a good size, decent size refurb, but it's going to go in there. Now that number will have populated the sourcing spreadsheet. So we've now got all the numbers in there. But what we really want to understand is this going to be a great location for an HMO? So the next tab is the spare room analysis. So again, remember, we just fill out the yellow boxes. So we see that our Southampton address has already been put in there. Now, by going on spare room, you can find out the average monthly room rate in your area. And again, on our 3-day event, we go into this in a bit more detail, but let me just do this so you can see how this works, because you can then go away and do the work on this. Let me put in £650. Now, let's imagine that I see that on spare room, there are, say, 120 rooms available, quite a good size number of rooms. And maybe I see that there are 100 people looking. Now, what this calculator does is it will tell you whether it is a strong market or not. So as you can see there, there's 120 rooms available and there's 100 tenants looking. actually, what I've often found is that when you drill down, you'll find that the tenants who are looking are more than you first thought. And in fact, data shows that there's 50% more people looking than have got a listing. But secondly, that the rooms available are not always suitable for those tenants. So in fact, when we start to figure out where the match is between the tenants and the rooms, you can often reduce that number quite significantly. Now, when we do that, actually this should be here, it turns into an okay. It's not a super strong market, but it's an okay market. So doing this analysis on spare room is really important because it gives you really deep facts and figures. Now, the rest of the spreadsheet continues to be self-populated, so you can see how much the purchase price and the refurb would estimate up at, what each room would calculate out at per room, what the average rent per room would be based on what you've put in, and let me just move this calculation down, the yield. So this is a 23% yield. So at this point in time, I'm thinking that could work. Now, the benefit of this spreadsheet is you can play around with the figures. So you can take all the time that you like to figure out all these different factors, but you just fill in the yellow boxes. Everything else will self-populate. And then you come to the deal analysis section. Now, the deal analysis section has practically everything filled out for you. As you can see, it's already pre-populated. The only thing you have to put in is the agent percentage. Now, if I go to the end, you'll see from this particular deal that we are going to leave in, in fact, we're going to get money back from this deal. We're going to get £4,845 back if all the numbers are followed. If the commercial valuation works, so this is a way of evaluating the property from a commercial point of view. So if the commercial valuation is as I would predict it to be, then I would imagine that you'd get £4,845 back, which means it's a negative negative return because the formula doesn't work otherwise. Where negative, this means you take money out of the deal. Let's say we alter that figure to maybe include a slightly higher cost of purchase. And then we'll see what that does to it. So let's say the asking price is, here we are, here's the asking price. So let's put in the asking price, £160,000. And then what does that do to the deal analysis? Right, that means that we leave £11,155 in the deal, but we're still making 182% return. So it's a fantastic way of you very, very simply working through the maths. Now, Olga, that's a really good question. What ratio of rooms offered versus people looking isn't okay? I would say that where you have more, on this spare room analysis sheet, what we've said is 1.3, you really want 1.3 tenants to rooms. You want 1.3 tenants to the number of rooms that are available. And if that is the case, it's counted as a strong market. If it's less than that, then it's an okay market. One of the factors that we cover on our 3-day courses, we go into depth about how to use spare room, how to get those figures accurate. I've given you a bit of an overview, and you'll have to go into spare room and really figure out how many people are looking and what the rooms available are. And that might take you a bit of time, but we show you how to do that on the 3-day event because we know how, what an incredibly useful skill that is to do. But you still have the sourcing spreadsheet. So by using this is a really easy way to do your analysis on an HMO, to see what it's going to outturn at, to see what the yield per room is going to be, to make sure that you've done your due diligence. You can even fill in some notes here about your competitors, what your competitors are doing. I've left that blank for your own notes. And it's a really, really useful tool. Now, I've got time to just take a couple of questions. I think there's a couple of questions in the chat panel already. Was there a Q&A? I think somebody did. Was there a question there? Olga, I've answered your question. Were there any other questions from people? I think there was a question that came up, but I might have missed it. Apologies if I've missed it. You might have to rewrite it in the chat panel. So tonight you are going to leave. I'm going to send you as a follow-up to the this session tonight. You're going to get a link to Dropbox. You're going to get lots of information about how to use the sourcing spreadsheet. You'll get a recording. This will take a little bit of time to render, so the recording on this event won't come through immediately, and you'll have a bit more information to help you to fill out that that sourcing spreadsheet. It's been absolutely great spending time with you tonight. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I hope you have had a valuable evening. I think I have fulfilled my promise to you and given you great value, giving you a free gift, helping you to self-evaluate whether HMOs are right for you, and you know, also not just offering an upsell, which I know is what a lot of HMO trainers do. I hope you have enjoyed it. It's been great working with you this evening. Please stay in touch. You will hopefully have had your report now back from the self-evaluation, and in it are various different tools and courses of action for you to take next. If one of them is booking a call with me, I'd love to have that call with you. And if you have booked a place on our 3-day event, I cannot wait to see you there. We're going to have a fantastic time together. And tonight is really a taster of more to come. So thank you ever so much indeed, everybody, for being here this evening. As you can see, I'm a little bit hot and sweaty still, so I'm going to have a nice cold drink and enjoy the rest of your evening, everybody. And I'll see you very, very soon. Thank you all very much indeed.